You might be surprised to learn that there has probably never been a time in human history when miracles were not taking place. In fact, without a constant stream of miracles, our brave American pioneers of 150 years ago could never have endured the conditions in which they struggled to survive. It was September 1849. Hundreds of families living in the eastern states heard the cry of gold in California and headed west. The 10 members of the families of Philemon Gibbs and Isaac Toole planned to make their homes in the booming town of Sacramento. But many of those who set out toward that new promised land never arrived. They lost their lives to disease, injury, and then there was the dry, barren wilderness itself.
We'd better just set up camp here tonight.
This particular year, the heat was even more intense than usual. So by the time the two families reached a well or watering hole, it had already gone bone dry. Now the clear water that the two wagons carried was beginning to run dangerously short in the middle of the hottest place on the continent, Eastern California's Death Valley. The travelers had all but used up their last water reserves. Now, there was only enough for 2 or 3 days. And from here, in the middle of the desert, the soonest the caravan could reach clear water would be at least 5 days.
Sarah, water, dear.
The Gibbs and Toole families were devoted to each other in mutual self-sacrifice, but they knew that soon they would have nothing else to give. If they did not find clear water in the next 2 days, they would all surely die.
Just about all out. We better take stock of what to do. We're not going to find any water out here for a few days.
I reckon so.
If my figures are right, we should be about 30 miles from Fort Mojave.
Yeah? We'd all die of thirst before we got there.
Well, then I suggest you and I take off by foot. We can make it there and back a lot faster.
30 miles in this heat?
There's no other way.
Philemon and Isaac knew that they could travel faster on foot than the fully loaded wagons ever could. They would find the closest water and bring back all they could carry.
Take care, Isaac.
I will.
Godspeed.
Isaac.
The next morning, Isaac and Philemon gathered all the water skins they could carry, all of them empty, except for one.
You're in charge now, Joseph.
Isaac turned the reins of command over to his eldest son. He left Joseph with the charge to keep everyone comfortable and out of the sun as best he could. A temperature of 125 degrees is not unusual in Death Valley, but in this unusually hot year, the daytime high had frequently been over 134 degrees Fahrenheit. But with only a pint of water between them, Isaac Toole and Philemon Gibbs struggled onward, determined to save the lives of their families. On and on they walked, each torturous step taking them further from the families they loved, and with no guarantee that they were getting any closer to the life-saving water they always imagined to be just over the next dune. By noon of the next day, Isaac and Philemon were more dead than alive. But still, they forged onward, driven by their thoughts of their families, who were counting on them to return. Finally, the two men collapsed, And yet, even then, Isaac and Philemon would not give in. Their families needed water. Nothing else mattered. When they could no longer walk, no longer crawl, no longer drag themselves, they lay down their bodies, but not their wills. Isaac and Philemon's hearts cried out for any way by which their families might be saved. They had no way of suspecting how close they were to a miraculous rescue. Strange as what they now saw was, Isaac and Philemon knew that at least there were other people at this place, people who might be willing to help them save their families.
Howdy. Y'all must be working on that movie down the way, huh?
Sir?
Never mind. What can I do for you?
We're in desperate need of some water, sir.
The attendant knew that a film crew was making a movie in the nearby hills,
there's the water.
and he assumed Isaac and Philemon were in period costume for a scene from that film.
Sacramento.
So he good-naturedly showed them the water he had set aside for the many drivers who came seeking help with their automobile radiators.
Out of the desert.
Sir, we've gotten disoriented. Can you tell us how to get to Sacramento?
It's north of here, that-a-way. You know, you two are almost believable. Well, help yourselves to the water.
It's like soft glass.
Isaac and Philemon found everything they needed: water, directions, even a bounty of fresh fruit. But they both knew that even with the 2-day return journey that now lay ahead of them, every moment could count where their families were concerned.
How are we going to pay for this? We don't have any money.
This? It's gotta do. What do you suppose that is? Some sort of metal wagon.
In future years, Isaac Toole and Philemon Gibbs would marvel over the strange things they saw that day. But on this day, in the midst of their crisis, they only knew of their renewed hope that their families might still be saved. The journey into the desert seemed short this time, so it did not seem long at all before they were reunited with the loved ones they set out to save.
They're back! Hey, they're back! Everybody, they're back! Mama! Papa's home, they're back!
It's so good to see you. Son. I've never seen it.
Would it not be wonderful to now go to some warehouse or museum and find those covered wagons with the belongings of the Toole and Gibbs families, to see the modern plastic water jug tossed in with the wood and metal tools? Sadly, everything the two families brought out of the desert is now lost to the endless waters of time. Or at least, almost everything. In the year 1929, the first governor of Montana passed away after a valiant career of civic leadership. His name was Joseph K. Toole. Joseph received his first taste of leadership as a boy when he was left in charge of his family during their nearly disastrous crossing of the desert. It is rumored that for years Joseph Toole held as his prized possession a strange card bearing what was at the time an unexplainable picture. Nothing, it seems, is more powerful than love. For the Toole and Gibbs families, their deep love for each other was stronger than the burning sands or blazing sun, and even strong enough to overcome the relentless barriers of time itself.